mute yourself afterwards. Thank you, Amy. I am recording now. Okay, I wanted to not record while Bob and I were having a little half-hour conversation before this started, so I am re-recording the session now. Thank you, Amy. So I will start. My name is Mike Caparula. I am the current IMACC president. I teach at Kankakee Community College, and this semester, all online, I'm doing Calc 1, Calc 3, Finite Math, and Trigonometry. So 4 classes, 4 preps. It's a lot of fun. So more people coming on here. So I will go in the order that I have people. So next I have is Bob.
Hi there. I am Bob Capetta, 22 years at College of DuPage, 30 years of teaching in Illinois. I've been in Florida for the last couple. This year I have moved on to Fort Myers. I am at Florida Southwestern State College, but I am teaching from my daughter's bedroom here in Clarendon Hills during COVID, and I will head down there for the winter. That's the plan.
Awesome.
And I'm teaching college algebra, 4 sections of college algebra, 1 section of pre-calculus algebra.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for joining us. Natalie.
Oh, hi. Am I introducing myself? Sorry.
Yes, you're introducing yourself.
I'm Natalie McGathy. I work at Prairie State College in Chicago Heights, teaching a couple sections of college algebra. And mentoring student tutors, which is difficult because we're all online. Is there anything else I'm supposed to say about myself, or is that good?
That's good. Are you actually at work right now, or is that?
Oh no, this is my kitchen.
Oh, you're.
Yeah, I have a blackboard wall.
That's
yes,
cool.
I can vouch for that. She has a giant chalkboard wall.
That's cool.
Comes in handy.
All right, Tony.
Tony, Carl Sandberg, let's say I have a college algebra, a trig, a finite, a concepts of math, all online. Calc 2 I'm actually doing at the campus, and that's at least trying to do that. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Ruth.
Hi, from Kankakee. I'm teaching college algebra, stats, contemporary math, and math lit. And I did have a first year experience class the first half of the semester.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for coming. Amy. Where is Amy?
I'm Amy Madden. I'm at Moraine Valley. Hi, Bob. I'm teaching a couple college algebra, Calc 2 and linear algebra this semester.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Amy. Chris.
Hi, Chris Riola, Moraine Valley. I'm teaching all online classes. I've got a calculus, trigonometry, a couple of intermediate algebras, and some basic math.
Thanks,
It's
Chris.
really exciting.
Awesome. Dawn.
I'm Dawn Peterson. I teach at Illinois Central College. This semester I've got 2 sections of statistics, 3 sections of Gen Ed math, and a co-rec that accompanies the Gen Ed math.
Super. Good to see you, Dawn. I guess I'll see you next Wednesday too, right?
Oh,
11
yeah.
classes though. That's fantastic, isn't it? We only have 11. I was very happy about that. Sorry, you have no idea what we're talking about, but all right, thanks.
They're probably
Dawn.
glad they don't know.
Yeah. All right, Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly from Parkland College. I am teaching 4 Gen Ed math classes and 2 college algebra classes, and they're called hybrid, but basically we've moved entirely to Zoom.
Good, welcome, Kelly. Nice to see you. Kira?
Hi, I'm Kira. I'm from Kishwaukee College. I am channeling Mike's inner recliner today. I am teaching 2 sections of math literacy, a geometry, and a topics of math class this semester, and they are all online.
Awesome. Thanks, Kira. Michael.
Mike McClure from Southwestern Illinois College. In person, I've got 2 basics, an intermediate, and intro to stats. I have 1 online basic and a late start basic and late start intermediate.
Yeah, it's always a little different down south than it is up north, isn't it? Yeah, thanks, Mike. Paul.
Yes, sir. I'm Paul McCombs. I teach at Rock Valley College. I have a. Oh, I stopped. I'm home now. I'm
Oh,
home.
okay.
But yeah, I got a intermediate beginning algebra combined, and then I got two gen ed maths, a trig, a business calc, and a calc 1 at Rock Valley. I also teach part-time at Beloit College. I just got through teaching a calc 2. They divide their term up into 2 halves. I've got a pre-calculus there right now. And then I also teach at Rockford University on Monday nights. I teach a statistics course at Beloit, and Rockford University, we're doing kind of a hybrid. So I meet them most of the time and do some online Zoom stuff. At Rock Valley, fully online.
Oh, I welcome you to this. I don't know how you found time to to join us here. That's awesome, Paul.
Oh yeah.
Way to go.
Driving down the road. But I'm done.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, no, thank you.
Let's see, where were we at here? Peter.
Okay, I'm Peter Kay. I teach at Carl Sandburg College. I am teaching all online classes. I have some developmental math classes, I guess Gen Ed co-requisite course, so Gen Ed / co-requisite with it, and then also a developmental, which is a developmental like algebra class that's in the STEM direction. So I have one developmental and not in the STEM direction and another in the STEM direction, so to speak. And yeah, I think that covers it.
Awesome, Peter. Thanks. Welcome. Tara.
Hi, I am Tara Stamps, and I am from Prairie State College in the south burbs of Chicago. This time around, I'm teaching all online, and will be next semester as well. I don't know if you guys have already announced it or not, but we've already announced that we're going to be online next semester too. And I'm doing a intermediate algebra, 2 gen ed maths with a co-rec, and a math for teachers. That one online is proving to be very challenging.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Tara. Welcome. Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Sullivan. I teach at Northern Illinois University. I have a section of essentially beginning algebra that's all online. Some of the students were upset because when they registered, it was supposed to be in person, and then went online the week before. And I had 3 sections of intermediate algebra, which I actually fought to keep it face-to-face, where all the other sections have gone online. I have about 10 students out of 24 who actually come to class, but never all at once. But the other ones, they're able to come online, so it is a hybrid class. My other 2 sections, I've had a student come occasionally for each of those.
Yeah. Welcome, Tim. Good to have you. And a late arrival is Roger. Roger, introduce yourself. Tell us where you work at and what classes you're teaching this semester.
Yes, Roger Hergert from Rock Valley College, teaching fully online. I've got, what do I have? I've got Gen Ed Math, I've got Calculus 1, and I'm teaching math for elementary teachers for the first time ever in any format. So that's also proving challenging, Tara. That's my story.
Awesome.
I'm sticking to it.
Good for you. Thanks, Roger. Did I miss anyone? I don't think so. Okay. All right, so what I want all of you to do, and if you don't want to, and so 4 of you or 5 of you or 6 of you are off of your webcam right now, you can just do a reaction. I would want you to raise your hand if you're teaching at least 1 online course this semester. Raise your hand if you're teaching at least 1 online course this semester. And I would have a feeling it would be everybody, okay? So, and I know some of you are teaching face-to-face. A lot of our folks down in southern parts of Illinois are teaching a lot of face-to-face. Tony is teaching a face-to-face class, and I think I heard maybe 1 or 2 others that are teaching a face-to-face. So my main thing I'd like to do here today is just for all of us to talk and to have a sort of a roundtable about what we're doing in our online courses, because there's nothing worse than if someone is doing something fantastic and yet can't share it with anyone. Okay, so this gives an opportunity, and I'm recording this as well, and we'll put this out on our website. And I will take notes. And so I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So I think that's it. I think, can everybody see that okay? Okay, so I kind of broke it down into three main areas. Content delivery, whether you're doing it synchronous or asynchronous, student engagement, informative assessment, and summative assessments, okay? And then other areas that you guys want to talk about that might be some of the things that we're doing. So what I will do is I will open up, now this is course mainly for the online courses, not obviously for the face-to-face courses. And I will just open up the floor for anyone who would like to volunteer to talk about how they are delivering their content to their students. And if nobody will volunteer, I will tell how I'm doing it. But I'll let someone else kind of step in.
Well, I'll talk about what I've heard from other instructors that they wished who decided to go asynchronous, that they were synchronous. They feel like it's very hard to have a connection and get the students actually viewing the material.
So go ahead.
I've heard the other side of that, Tim. People that are trying to do synchronous and realizing that it's very, very difficult to have the students there with them during that time to focus. I've had pretty good success with asynchronous. I think the issue is if you're in a household with small children or elementary school students, maybe you don't have the bandwidth or the computer from 10 to 11 on Tuesday and Thursday to do it. Maybe you need to study at 3 a.m. So the fact that students can decide for themselves when to engage with the material, I think there's some advantages to the asynchronous system.
Yeah, I'm synchronous for a couple of my classes, and the students knew that ahead of time. So it was scheduled in there, the time and the days and things like that. The only advantage I'm detecting after 8 weeks of synchronous is that they're at least attending for the lectures. Because the few times I've had to record the lecture, if I couldn't be there at the synchronous time, they didn't watch the lecture. And so I just feel like and this is what I'm probably gonna have to do for spring, but if I'm gonna record more lectures, I'm really not sure how much they're going to watch them. At least synchronous, they're attending and they seem to be, they're not interacting at all. And maybe that's the way I'm running it, but it's lecturing to a blank wall right in front of me. But at least I know they're there, or their names on the screen. I don't know if they walked away, but whatever.
I'm a lot with Bob because I have like a finite class. I only have a couple students in. It's basically independent study. I'm doing them synchronous because it's not too hard to get a couple guys online at a time. But too many others, their time schedules are so messed up. They cannot get on Monday, Wednesday from 1 to 2:15 anymore because their kids' schedules at school are nuts. They basically have to do the videos because they cannot meet at those times. So I'm just doing videos for most, especially the classes I have like 20-some people in. I'm just doing the pre-recorded videos, my math lab, those types of things, because there's no way to get anywhere near that many students online at the same time. And I still would have to record those lectures for the students that don't make it anyway. I know my daughter, Illinois State, with those classes, the same way. Some of those classes, there's hardly anybody in the classroom. Most of them are watching recordings. And even one of the classes she's in that's synchronous, she's one of maybe 2 or 3 students out of 20 that actually has their camera on during class. So the others may just be sitting there and that's it, may not even tuned in much. So it's, for me, going synchronous, unless there's just a small group, I might as well just do videos. I think it's going to be just as effective.
Are any of you, oh, go ahead. Who was that?
Oh, you guys go.
Sure.
We should. I don't want to yet do the hand raise thing, but we may get to that where we have to raise hands when you want to talk. Is anyone? I do asynchronous, and I do not have a problem with students watching my videos. And I don't have any incentives either. Maybe it's due to the fact that I'm teaching all college level courses this semester. That might have something to do with it. But I only have maybe 1 or 2 students, and of course they're really struggling, who don't watch my lecture videos. All of the others are watching them. And I have no incentive. So I was going to ask that those of you who do have lecture videos, and we kind of talked about this a little bit two weeks ago, do you have incentives for them to watch the videos? Like, do you have like a quick quiz that they have to take that they would only know from watching the video, or anything else there to get credit?
I, well, sort of do. All my classes are asynchronous. I use my math lab primarily. I use the videos that go with the book, but for certain sections, I've come to make my own videos if I disagree with how the videos have been made for the book. And I've tried it with a few sections, and when I get, well, anyway, the book videos I have attached to the homework. They can't go anywhere until they have quote unquote watched the video, which unfortunately means they've opened it. But some of them I get the idea do, some of them don't. And then what's even more fun is it looks like the videos that I make in addition to those, maybe if I'm lucky, if a couple of students will even go and actually try and find them. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I have mixed feelings about the videos personally, because if I were a student, I probably would use other resources. I don't like watching videos on the computer, but I know some students like it, so I keep them up. But yeah.
I only make it a requirement for my lower level students, so my math lit developmental students, and also my contemporary math, the quantitative literacy class. I make it part of their grade, and we use so that they have to watch it. Whether they really sit there and watch it, I don't know. But we use VidGrid at KCC, where you get a report on how much of the video they've watched, and also you can embed questions. And so I embed questions throughout the video, so the video stops and they have to answer for the video to go on. Now, I am aware of students in my math lit class who will watch the video, and you get a report of how many they got right. And if they're getting like 100, a 0%, I know that they're just letting it run and then arbitrarily picking an answer, and then it's going on again. So there are students who will get around really watching the videos.
I'm curious as to how long you guys, how your videos are.
I just received a call from you. I got the voicemail. I was driving down the road.
Oh, if anybody's doing like micro learning or anything like that.
Something like that's what I believe. But anyway.
Yeah, Paul's all important over there.
Not anymore. All right, go ahead, Tara, say that again.
How long are your videos? Like, is anybody doing like this whole micro learning where you kind of, break it up into like 5-minute chunks? Because I try to keep my videos to about 20 to 25 minutes per section. And I know that is so long, but I tried breaking it up on a section. I tried breaking it up into little smaller increments. And next thing I know, they're having problems with, well, did I watch all the videos? I couldn't find this one, even though I put them into a playlist in YouTube. It just seemed like it caused more problems. I'm like, okay, can you guys just pause it, maybe come back later when you want to watch more of it? So yeah, time.
Well, during the TA strike at UIC last year, a couple of years ago, I recorded full lectures live, so 55 minutes, and I got very few students watching those. I've been recording videos for, I don't know, the last 10 years or so, and most of them were about 20 minutes. I have moved now to shorter ones. I like one problem per video, but I'll do it multiple ways. I'll do it on the graphing calculator. I'll do it on Desmos. I'll do a couple different approaches to kind of give it a richer experience. But that way the student can see a problem, can click on that video, can see how I solve it. The next problem, click on the video. I think that's been more effective.
For my developmental math classes, we actually have a flipped classroom before all of this. And we were using the My Math Lab videos for the flipped classroom. I got to see them at times in class watching the videos. There were some times where they would do that. we force them to to follow notes as they do them. But most of them, I think it varies from video to video. I've seen some videos to be 10 minutes. I've seen some be 30, 40. When I make a video, I usually am videotaping what I would do for lecture. So usually they're fairly long. I've gotten to 40. I think I may have done 50 at one point, but that was a very long topic. But one of the things I noticed with the students who were watching the videos in developmental math, and this is sort of when I make the philosophy, and this is what I tell the students when they're watching their videos, a lot of them didn't actually sit and watch the whole thing. They would fast forward and pause at the various parts. So for me, I just make sure I have a lot of different examples, and I tell them when I talk to them about it or email them about it, that they don't have to watch everything, and you can, in one sitting, you can watch it in pieces and whatever topics you need at that time. So instead of making 5 videos that are 10 minutes, I might have a 50-minute video, but it has the examples that I wanted them to get overall. So
Peter brings up something I wanted to ask about. Are any of you using guided notes in your classes? And if someone wants to volunteer about, maybe Dawn can talk about how you use guided notes.
Yeah, so I use guided notes normally just because I find, you can spend a lot of time with like writing out the questions. So at the start of this semester, I actually had all my note packets for all of my courses made and then sold in the bookstore. So they were sold for like $4 a piece. And it was a required set of materials so that they purchase it. And I know they have all of the guided notes. And so that's what I'm walking them through when I do my videos. I have the guided notes and I'm going through the examples. And I do keep each of my videos to like 7 to 10 minutes is usually my goal. So I'm doing just 1 or 2 examples at a time because that will allow me going forward. If I want to change something here and there, I don't have to change a 50-minute video. I can go back and swap out a new example and re-record, 1 video. And I have them all listed like, example 28, questions A and B on page 12 or whatever. So it's really easy for me to figure out what video goes where. My students, we meet synchronously for most of my classes, but I don't meet, like if it's a 3-hour class, we're meeting about half of the allotted time because the expectation is that they are watching my videos and that's where they're getting the lecture. I am using the synchronous time to give them like sometimes a preview of like particularly topics that I know are trouble causers down the road because, we've done this enough times to know where students stumble. I will use it to, like in a stats class, show them how to do a t-test or a z-test on their calculator so that they're not, again, trying to fumble through it. Even though I've got the videos, for them to see it is really helpful and go through it. I've been using breakout rooms a lot lately. So I start the class with an example problem that sadly, there's no way, like when they go into breakout rooms, you can't share your screen anymore. We found out the hard way. So I've been like posting a problem just right in our course site, and it'll just like my documents are very cleverly titled like for Zoom 1022 or whatever, but they open it and then they've got a problem that they work on and I send them off into their breakout rooms. That gives them some time to talk about what's going on, to discuss the problem, and then I check in and out. I zip in and out of those rooms, and then we come back together, and I usually have one person be the spokesperson, and because they don't speak to each other when we're in a full class. So I have one person be the spokesperson and they get to type what their group came up with like in the chat. They're allowed to speak, but most of them don't. So that has been really helpful, and the feedback from my students about those breakout rooms has been great because they will talk to each other in a room with 2 other people. They will not talk to each other in a room of 20. So that's been very helpful. It's taken some creativity, but their feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, except for the 2 students who every time I say we're going to breakout rooms, they leave class, like they just log off. But that's, that's their choice.
Tara asked you in the chat, Dawn, have you run into any copyright issues with selling your packets?
No, because it's my material. I mean, I make up examples similar to those in textbooks, but I'm not using any one particular resource. I'm using open resources for the most part, but I'm not, again, like if you see what's there, I make mine different from what's in that book. So I post the links to the book as well, but I do similar examples, not identical examples. And I think the rule is like no more than 10% can come from any one source. And so I've got those there. And then at the end of every unit, there's like a review. And I've also put the answers, not the solutions, but the answers to the review so that they've got plenty of stuff that they can look at. And some of them are watching the videos and some of them aren't. And we've had a lot of discussions with the students. I can see if they watch them. So when they're sending me all these questions, I go look and I see if they've watched them, and I'll say, well, the reason you're not understanding is because you haven't opened any of the videos that actually explain the concepts. We are hitting the highlights in, when we meet together. But that's not you need to go pick up some of those basics so that this conversation enhances what you've learned.
Excellent. Ruth, did you want to add yours? Because I saw your hand go up.
No, I'm just saying I use guided notes too, but I do have a question. Since the students are, like, if they are purchasing the ebook and the code for the homework, and does that mean you're infringing on copyright issues when you're printing off problems from the book to make guided notes? Does anybody know? Because they've purchased the ebook.
I don't think you are, according to our copyright person. You just can't sell them.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can create them and have them available to the students, but you just can't sell them because they're from, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
All right, good. Anyone else want to talk about anything about content delivery before we move into student engagement formative assessment? I think everyone's waiting for us to get to summative assessment, as I think what everybody's waiting for. So anything else anyone wants to add for synchronous and asynchronous for now about content delivery?
Yeah, Mike, I just put something in the chat box there. I do record all of my sessions, whether they're face-to-face or not, and I use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. Right now, I've been told from the Blackboard people there at NIU, there's not a way for us to know who's actually watching those videos. So we're told there's a workaround for that. We also have something called Kaltura that can do recordings, but then I would have to somehow I have to manually put those videos into that system, and then that can track it. But I feel that's too much work on my part.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, if you can talk to your instructional tech people, if there is money available to get VidGrid, VIDGRID, I think Ruth would agree with me with this. It has been an absolute lifesaver since we have gone to COVID. Like I said, VidGrid houses all their own videos. They don't render. There's no time to render. They are automatically done. They are automatically closed captioned. I think the closed captioning is better than YouTube's. VidGrids, and it has user analytics. You can embed questions like Ruth said, and there's other things you can do with VidGrid that that I probably don't even use. So I typed it in the chat what it's called, and I'll put it in the notes too. I don't know how much a license is for a campus for that, but I'm sure it's pretty expensive. But it has been a lifesaver for us.
And another thing is, you can take previous videos you've made and upload them into VidGrid, and then you can edit them, embed questions. You don't have to use VidGrid to make the videos.
Right, yep. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay, so online class, how are you keeping your students engaged? I discovered when I taught my summer classes, I had Calc 1 and Calc 2, mostly all reverse transfer students. And it was really the first online classes I had ever taught. I don't count what happened in spring. I don't think any of us should count what happened in spring. And it was a complete disaster because I just basically made my lecture videos. I had office hours and I gave them quizzes to take. And it was a complete crash and burn. And I have learned greatly from that about formative assessment, because as a teacher, I think we all know this, you can look at your students in class and know if they understand something or not. And it's not just about what they're asking, but what their faces look like, their posture, their personality, and you can tell if things are if they're getting things or not. You can't do that in online. So I am curious to hear what some things that people are doing, successful or maybe not successful, with student engagement and formative assessment.
Well, for me, I've tried, and I tried this even before with my online classes before all of this happened. But I've tried having, like setting up discussions, like have discussion questions. My issue when I do that, though, is I'll get a few students who cooperate, and then others have just decided, no, I don't want to do it. I'll even make it a bigger part of their grade, and they still will not do it to save my life. So I'm interested also in hearing what other people have to say, because the discussions, getting the students to engage and actually do them is a whole nother story.
Let's talk about discussion threads. If this is a history class or a psych class or English, I think it's easier because they're more subjective. How are people doing this discussion threads in their math classes?
Well, one thing I did was I created problems with blanks. And I said, create a problem like negative 3x plus ... is less than x minus ... Solve the problem and explain your process. And then comment on another student's, whether or not you liked or disliked their process. It worked fairly well. The only difficulty I had with that is the students created the problems that were the easiest possible things. Like negative 3x plus 0 is less than x minus 0. And I had to say, create interesting problems, and then I could, of course, grade them accordingly. So that worked.
So I've been doing some kind of, you talk about like history course, like some kind of more philosophical. So like one of my questions recently was, have you ever found yourself just doing your homework to get it done versus doing your homework to really understand? And this was like after a test, because I have a lot of students that because there are multiple attempts on the homework, they're doing very, very well on the homework. Then they're taking a test where there's not multiple attempts and they're finding it's not going so well. And it's because, and they do it in person too. This is not unique to the online setting, but they're doing it to get it done and not to understand. And so there was actually a lot of wonderful, amazing conversations between the students. They were commenting on each other's posts about, oh my goodness, yes, I found I did that in the last test, or I just did that in my biology class and it was a disaster. So that's been kind of good. But I've also been putting things like, if we did a simulation in statistics, for example, about the central limit theorem, we'd gone through it. And so my next post was, okay, so now I want you to explain to me like what was happening. How do you create a sampling distribution for sample means? And what is that process like? And what did you learn from the simulation? And go try another simulation and report about what happens. So that's gotten some good feedback, better that than some of the other things that have been more like specific content related. I think the ones where they get to explain like the difference between a binomial PDF function on your calculator and a binomial CDF function and when you use each one, those kind of things. So I've been going a little different, I think a different route than what I've normally done, but I do give them credit for responding. And I give them credit for responding to each other. And I also give them credit if they respond to someone else's question, like a homework question in the forum, because I tell them that I am not a 24/7 help desk. And I am not usually doing homework at 2 o'clock in the morning. I tend to be in sleep in my bed, but they do homework at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I give them credit if a student posts a question that they need help on and they respond and they give them not the answer, but good feedback as to how to get the answer. I also give them credit for that as part of their discussion grade.
Is that extra credit or is that just required credit for your
It's required. So there's a percentage. It's not a huge percentage. It's 5 or 10%, depending on the class, of their grade is based on the discussion. But again, I let it go either way. They can participate in the formal discussion that I put out the prompts to, or they're allowed to respond to their classmates. And if they do like, thanks for the help, that doesn't count as a point. Okay, so don't get me wrong. And I think I've set it at like 20 points for the whole semester. So if they give 20 replies of, any kind of thought, either to their classmates or to my posts, they're going to get full credit for that portion of their grade. I don't think 20 in 15, 16 weeks is too much to ask. So
I tried the discussion boards with prompts like, hey, what kind of problems are you having in this chapter? Maybe kind of get them interacting with each other. Nope. But my Math for Teachers, I was able to prompt them with a little bit more thoughtful questions, and with things like, okay, here is 42 divided by 6, and here is what a child said as they were working through this division. What were they doing? And have them try to explain it and work together. Although I end up with the same 2 or 3 good students participating and everybody else just ghosting me. Like, I pretty much I just joke that my students must like owe me money or something, because a lot of them just avoid me.
Okay, one of the things I do, and I got this suggestion from University of Oregon, I think, this last summer. It's along with discussion threads. Most of my discussion threads are usually more higher level math based. Like I would give them a certain situation that's a little bit beyond, what the actual course content is, and just to see if students are thinking a little bit. But one thing I do weekly with my students is I on top of the online homework, I give them a couple, 2 or 3 problems for them to work out and then scan and send to me. And then I see that they've done them, and then they have to do a self-reflection in paragraphs, complete sentences, talk about all the errors. I do send them solution keys. Once they send in their homework the next day, I will send out solution keys to them, and then they talk about all their errors they made and compare them to my work, and then what they can do to improve themselves and to fix it before the quiz. And if they did the problems right, they should talk and reflect about things that they have to watch out for and certain things like that. And that's been going great. Yes, I have the 1 or 2 students who will do the entire reflection in 6 words. Okay, but overall that has been going wonderfully, I think. And sometimes I think they get more out of that than they do out of taking any sort of summative assessments. So I'm going to definitely be continuing that as well.
Mike, can I ask you about that? I've been fighting with my students to get some written homework turned in this semester, and getting it in a format that I can see and read. And, I said, this is the app I want you to use to scan it as a PDF and upload it into D2L. And this is exactly what I want. And I have a whole bunch that are doing it, but probably 10% who just, most recently I'm getting like screenshots off their phone that are like this big, and I have to zoom in. And I really like your feedback in terms of having them self-reflect on the answer key, because I'll post an answer like a solution, and I'll write comments about how they've done. And as far as I can tell, they don't look at my comments. They're not looking at whether or not they got it right. They just care about the points and moving on. So are your students getting you that material in a way that's readable? Have you had to do any pushback, or are you just taking it however they're sending it to you?
Mostly they're getting it to you.
Okay.
So one thing I do in the first week of class is have a practice PDF submission. So in the first week of class, I ask for demographics, their name, what their major is, why they're at college, what they're looking for, and I make sure it's like multiple pages long, because part of the problem is they can't scan multiple pages.
Right.
And then they practice that, and then they send it in. And if it's bad, I make them redo it. And so I don't give them any credit. So it's either 0 credit or full credit. And they complain
Okay.
about that first week, but then they understand in second and third and fourth and fifth week and so on that they're sending everything in PDFs. So then if they stop doing that, and sometimes they forget, they send it to as a JPEG because they just forgot to make a PDF out of
Right.
it. And I understand that. But only once in a while do I get the ones that are very blurry and very faint and they're very difficult to read. I also have our LMS set up where they can actually type it directly into the LMS and not upload. And we Canvas has an equation editor, and it's good for some things. I would think other things like statistics it would be awful for, or but and some of them use that really well, and others just avoid it and they just want to just type and scan. But mostly no. There are a couple yes, and I will say it in the comments, but like you said, I don't know if I spend hours on the comments per week, and I know some don't read them because they make the same mistakes again on the quiz that I mentioned in the comments. But I will say, try to see if you can scan a little darker. What kind of phone are you using? These are good apps. We try to avoid paid apps, try to use free apps as much as possible. So to answer your question is, yeah, I have that problem, but not as many. And again, I really stick it to them in that first week. So,
and I guess that's what I needed to be like heavier handed at the beginning. And I'll just add one other thing while we're talking about formative assessment. And that is, I do have one class that is synchronous. And that class has actually been really good in terms of I do some of the same things I do in a traditional classroom. So I'll give them a warm up. So at the beginning of class, I'll have them do that. I'll ask them to work a problem in the middle of the class. And I'm okay with them all having their cameras off and everything. But what I ask them to do then is to all open the chat. So, okay, for this problem you just worked, everyone open the chat, type in your answer, don't hit enter yet. And then I count to 3 and have them all press enter to see what they got for an answer. And that's been kind of fun and kind of effective because it goes up fast enough that if you had the answer wrong, it's not a big deal. No one's like poking fun at you, but it's kind of neat to see.
Sorry, I'm writing this out.
That's okay.
Anyone else want to add formative before we start talking about summative? All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about summative assessment. So raise your hand if you think none of your students are doing any form of cheating at all on any of their summative assessments. And one thing that I was told last year is expect some of your students to do some cheating. So expect some of that. So I'd like to hear what some people are doing for their summative assessments. And I know we want to talk mostly about academic integrity as much as we can probably, but I would like to hear some comments from people on what they are doing to keep academic integrity as high as possible with online courses. So who wants to start that?
So I use my math lab for the homework and for their exams, so they're familiar with the process. And in fact, I get them used to the testing process with a test review prior to it, so it's not something new to them. But I'd say the two things I implement. One, very, very simple, is a question, the first question at the beginning of the test that basically has them agree to be ethical, to agree to not cheat, agree to not, et cetera, et cetera. But another part of that question also says, take this test knowing that I may ask to see your work. So basically, be organized about it, keep it, concise, but keep your work so that up to, I think I say a week later or something like that, if I contact you and request to see, send me pictures of your work, you can do that. And then, I think that threat is one thing. And then the other thing about it is I usually go through my math lab and they have some basic statistics regarding how long it took them to take the test. So if I see they did a 20 question test that I normally give 45 minutes for in 7.5 minutes, it's like, okay, show me your work. That's about my filtering process for the most part.
Yeah, I have them submit their written work for their exams. I mean, I'm sure that's not anything out of the ordinary. But I have a policy in my syllabus that I say that as the instructor, I reserve the right to meet with them and have them discuss their work. I've never actually done that, but I think that the leaving that open, if you're, especially for a calculus test or something like that. I mean, Calc 1, there's a lot of, it's kind of rote in a sense, but, explain to me how you got this, explain to me how you got this derivative. Why is there a local max here? And I might be able to get, gather from their body language or their answers whether or not they really honestly did the work. I found in my Calc 1 class this semester, if they are cheating, many of them aren't doing a very good job at it. So I haven't had to really execute any of that, but I feel like I have I reserve the right to statements, and hopefully that's kind of heading some of that off at the pass. I know that's probably very naive, but.
For the MyLab type exams, you need to give them a limited amount of time to do them. They can't be taking 6 hours to do that. So my usual idea is if Pearson says something will take X minutes, I'll maybe give them 1.2 times X minutes to take the test. Then obviously if you're LD students, you adjust accordingly. That's one strategy. Also, when you're choosing your questions, make sure they're questions that aren't really easy to cheat. And Pearson does have some decent questions that ask, what does this really mean? So as I'm picking those problems, that's a significant part of it. So, we do relatively small exams on MyLabs. The other ones we do on Canvas, and my school actually has a proctoring system. So we are using Proctorio. I'm not a real big fan. We require the students to buy an external modem or external camera so we can see their screen and we can see their hands, and we can identify what's going on, and then the system tells us if they think there's some funny business going on. They want us to watch every student's video to see for funny business, and when I have 150 students taking 2-hour exams, you could imagine how long that would take. So I'm not sure it works, but I do think it at least scares some people. Oh, and we don't let them use paper. So we make them buy a small erasable board. So they do their work on the small erasable board so that they can't just photocopy their work and send it to somebody else. So that's what we're doing in Florida. It's a little different, but that's our strategy currently.
Who else?
I require, those who are taking their tests in my math lab, I always require them to send me their work no matter what. And I tell them, just like on a regular test, if they just put the answer down, they won't get credit. So I tell them, you may have gotten it right in my math lab, but if you're not showing me the work, then I'm going to take away those points. And so, and with the time limit, they should have, less chance of cheating and giving it to other people, because they have to take the time and write their work out for every single problem that requires work, or they won't get credit. So hopefully that deters the cheating a little bit. I know there's apps out there where you can submit a problem and it will give you the answer and the work. But again, you try and stay away from just those computational problems and give more application problems.
Do you have a specific, for all of you guys who have, who talk about like how you have them restrict what they can do with their work, do you just tell them they have to take the test at a certain time, or is, and do you sit there and watch them through a program, or do you sort of still use the honor system? Because like, for instance, with the dry erase board, I was just curious because I could see students taking a picture of it with their cell phone, and then just sending the picture to somebody else.
Again, we're using a proctoring system.
Okay, so okay, I missed that
part. If they pull out the phone and take a photo of the dry erase board, I assume I will get a red flag saying there's some funny business going on.
Okay, and is there a certain time they have to take the test? Do you have a time frame for it?
We have basically said that given the craziness of people's lives, if it's an asynchronous course, you can't insist everyone takes the exam from 10 p.m. till midnight on Thursday. That just doesn't work.
Okay, that makes sense. I
will say, I give them from Thursday night till Monday night to finish it, and 95% of the people start at sometime after 5 p.m. on Monday. It's funny how they take every last minute before they start the test.
I give them 1 day. It's open from midnight till 11:59. I'm thinking about switching those times, but it's open from midnight till 11:59 p.m. the next day. And I usually, for me, well, first of all, the way I limit my cheating is I try to use more philosophical ideas. I don't give any large stake assessments, no high stake assessments. So I'm not giving any exams in my classes at all. My Calc 1 class is taking 30 quizzes this semester. Okay, and my other classes are taking like 15 or 16, and I drop like lowest 1 or 2 because we all have bad weeks. And because what I have, you know, and I think we've all heard this, that students are less likely to cheat if their quizzes are only, if their assessments are only worth like 1 to 2% of their grade, maybe. And those that do, I yell at them virtually. That why are you taking a chance of being kicked out of this class when this assessment was only worth 1.8% of your grade? Calculus students can figure that out pretty fast. Some of the lower ones maybe not. But so I, until the final exam. Now the final exam, yeah, there is that. But the other thing is, I always say try to make your assessments as long as possible, because if you make them as long as you possibly can in the time they have to take it, it gives them less opportunity to go to other places to search for solutions or search for work. And if they do, they get punished by not finishing the exam. So there's that old trick of, you know, take 4 to 5 times as long as you do your assessment for them, and so forth. So that's the other thing that I do. And for me, it's basically a PDF submission. I give them all of the problems within our LMS, and then they have to write it all out, and then they send as a PDF, and then I actually grade using an annotator and send back to them. That's how I do it. What about the rest of you? More?
Yeah. Another thing that I've tried, and it seems like it has at least made some students aware, is because all of our exams are hosted on MyLab, just because it's an easy platform for them to get the exam, and they're already doing their homework there anyway. So I feel it's like a familiarity. But when they submit their work, I have a policy also that they have to have their work submitted to me via because we use Canvas. They have to have their work uploaded on Canvas within a half hour of finishing the exam on my math lab. Again, do I go with a fine-tooth comb and check that? No. But I've also had some people like, oh, shoot, my scan, you know, my computer died and I couldn't hook it up to my scanner. I'll get you my work. So they are paying attention to that. So I kind of feel that hopefully battles let me just copy down all the questions and Google them later. So if I feel like that's going on, I'll, I can address that also. But I don't know. It's just, I sometimes feel like, we kind of get in this little battle where we try to figure out a rule that's going to beat our students and they'll figure out a way around it. But that's something that I've at least tried also. And it seems like they're somewhat aware of at least paying attention to that timeline.
One thing that I found that is a problem is that my students, they don't like to label their work. They just write the work down and they don't tell me what it's for. So I also I use MyLab as well, and I have the problems scrambled because I have twins in my class and I don't want them working together on it. So then I have to try to figure out what goes with what. And so one girl's problem number 4 is the other sister's problem number 12 or whatever. So I'm trying to heavily suggest, with penalty of, if I have to find out where the work is, I'm gonna take some of your credit because I'm doing some of the work for you, of labeling the problems with the work with the problem number. And then when I'm going through an exam review, I'm actually showing that as well, and then trying to reinforce, this is what I want and what I need from you to make it easier on me.
I actually have twins. I have twin brothers in my Calc 1 class. One is getting an A right now. The other is getting a C. They live together, and so I said, okay, that's fine.
I have a question. I tried doing the scrambling with my math lab of the problems, but when I was going over their reviewing their answers and stuff, it put the test in order. the same order for everybody. And so I couldn't match their work with their problems. And I talked to Pearson about it, and they said there was nothing I could do about it. So if you are scrambling the problems with my math lab, how are you reviewing their work with their problems?
Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll go for that. When you're looking at in the grade book for a particular student for that exam, you can click on off to the side where you can look at things. There's something called item analysis.
Right.
So then that shows you the first column on the left is the exam order that you have in my lab, and then a couple over it says what problem it was for them.
Oh, okay.
So then what I do, I copy and paste that report into an Excel file. Then I do a sort by their homework thing. So then I'll put it in the order that they presented it.
Well, I wonder why Pearson couldn't tell me that when I asked him.
Well, they didn't tell me that either. They just told me about the item analysis, and I've been doing the
Okay, I'll have to
sorting
look at
in
that
Excel.
because I stopped doing that because I couldn't then check I didn't know what problem went with what. It was too time consuming
Yeah,
to figure that out.
I've been getting more and more efficient with that as the semester goes on.
Dawn brought up My Open Math. Does anyone have any experience using My Open Math?
I love My Open Math. I was a huge skeptic, a very big skeptic. I did not want to use it. And then I started realizing that for some of the courses I taught that whatever was out there, it wasn't all that great anyway. And so students were paying a whole lot of money for something that I was like, it's not all that fantastic. So I have, at least for my gen ed stats and my liberal arts math courses, I am 100% open resource, doesn't cost them a dime except for their calculator and their $4 note packet from the bookstore. But it's been great. The nice thing about that platform, if you guys don't know anything about it, is it's other professors and teachers from around the country, like they write questions and put them into the platform. So I am not a computer programmer. I've never been a computer programmer, but by watching what other people have done, I can usually adapt and like create my own questions where I see holes, and I can keep them private. I don't have to publish them for everybody else. So I usually keep them private for a couple semesters and like make sure the bugs are worked out. And then I let them go public so others can use them. But because of that, because it's a living, breathing thing, the pool of problems is constantly growing and changing and getting better. So it's not like you're stuck with this one particular set. And then I've been able to write a lot of like, I call them just essay style. When I type one, I just type in the question, and then there's a thing for every question that they can upload their work or type in their work. And there's also an option that they can submit the work after the test. So like they can go in and put in all the answers, and then they can't change the answers, but then they can go back and submit their work. And it's right there in the test, like question by question by question. So I don't have to go back and forth between documents. It's been awesome.
What do you use for your stats software?
They're using the TI-84.
Okay.
So
because for you Pearson users, I want to remind you that StatCrunch can be bought as an individual package too, for like isn't like $10 or something like that. So you can get the entire StatCrunch package out, so you don't have to get the textbook along with it. Mike Sullivan was going to be on with us here today, but he couldn't make it. So I'm okay with saying that you don't have to actually buy his book to actually to get that as well. What other comments do we have? It is 4 o'clock. Obviously, I just want to be cognizant, I can never say that word, of people's time. But I am willing to stick around to talk about some other things that the people are doing in their classes. What other comments do people have they want to bring up?
What's anyone going to do for final exams? Do you have plans for that? Just do it like any other exam in your class? Thoughts?
I am doing in mine just like I do my quizzes. They're just going to be a little longer. And again, I use that. At KCC, it's 115 minutes for a final exam. If that's kind of our rule, I give them not 115, 110 minutes. I give them an extra 10 minutes for scanning and submitting. So I'm giving them 2 hours, and I try to make that final as tight as possible. And I remind them, I tell them, I tell them, make a cheat sheet. Because I usually have my students have cheat sheets anyway for in-class final exams. And I says that will prevent you, hopefully, of looking in your textbook, if they even have one, looking online, looking in their notes and then not get done in time. So I've told them that since day one to start building up a cheat sheet as they move forward. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But since I don't grade the cheat sheets. Anyone else want to comment about final exams?
Departmental final exams are a challenge. And the school I'm at now requires them for all of the courses. So my fear is, how do you know the questions won't get out? And they also insist that we give them the full finals week to do that. But again, the thought is that this online proctoring system may mitigate some of that. But where there's a will, there's a way, is what I think. So I'll be checking various places like Chegg and other places to see if those questions get posted.
Yeah, I guess at least in a face-to-face class, you can make sure they don't leave the room with any scratch paper or anything. But yeah, that you can make sure that they're not looking at anything. But once they're off camera, you don't know what they're doing with those papers they did their work on.
With what I've decided to do with some of my classes where there is kind of a high level of cheating that I've noticed, just from dealing with so far, is next semester I'm having them meet twice on campus. The first day of class and then the last day for the final, so that I can avoid that. So that's part of their schedule. When they sign up for the class, they know they have to meet those 2 times.
Initially at NIU, we have departmental exams. The final exams were scheduled to be in person. Well, that decision was reversed about week 3 when we shut down for 2 weeks because of COVID. So now they're being done online, but we were being told that they have to be done at the same time as they would have been if they were given in person. So I have one of them at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning and another one at noon on a Thursday. And they have to take it during that 2-hour time slot that they have, which I don't really agree with, because like you guys were saying, things come up, there's people's schedules are all different. They might not necessarily have that time. So I'm gonna have to do some pushback on that and ask for either special circumstances or just make it more open where they're in my math lab. The problems, I can scramble the problems. They're really different values, except for the ones that were created by the coordinator. That really shouldn't be an issue about they have to be at a certain time.
Dawn mentioned something in the chat. I think this would be a good thing to close with. Burnout. All right, she's mentioned, burnout, but to talk just amongst ourselves, not with our students.
Thanks, Michael. That's very helpful.
So Bob and I kind of talked about this a little bit before the session started, but who is kind of going through some burnout right now, and what are you doing to kind of help alleviate that?
There's a lot of research out there that says that online teachers burn out 3 to 4 times faster than teachers who teach in person. And I know that because of all things, I started my doctorate this semester, which was not, had I known in January that this was going to be happening, I probably would have changed my mind. But so some of the research I've stumbled on has been about that burnout rate. But, I fully from home and, got kids learning online here in my house and taking online doctoral classes. But my screen time average right now is 14 to 15 hours a day. And it's not all for my doctoral program. I wish it was, but it's not. But so I'm just wondering, like, like I hate this computer. I hate sitting in front of my computer day in and day out. I hate it.
I'm glad you're here though. To add one
This is
more hour in.
this is fun. I don't know. I'm just wondering if anybody else is going through the same thing.
I do think things like this, connecting with your colleagues, is important because this is remarkably isolating. And you think you're the only person dealing with these challenges. So the opportunity to discuss possible solutions, I think, is one way to kind of keep that burnout at bay.
I do, Tim.
That's my biggest benefit to attending IMACC each year is just general instructor fatigue, avoiding that burnout and being reinvigorated. So yeah, these sessions have been great for multiple reasons.
Well, I hope IMACC in April, when we get to that, can do that again, even though it will be in this kind of format.
And I always felt like IMACC and AMATIC were very well timed in the semester where, but after those two conferences, fall and spring usually had about 5 to 6 weeks to go in the semester. So, you're going home from those two going, okay, I think I'm ready to tackle the last 6 weeks. You had something to look forward to throughout the semester. You got that little break, got to, be with your colleagues, talk some shop, have a beer or 3, and then go back and, finish off the semester.
And as Paul mentioned earlier, AMATIC registration is up. It is free this year. And it's, I think, over 3 straight Fridays, I do believe, from like 10 till 3 or something like that in November. And I highly recommend you doing that. It is free, and it might give you an opportunity to say you're still on the computer, but it might just to put everything else away and just get a chance to listen and talk to some of your colleagues like we're doing here today. Anything else?
Will it be like this, or do you have to be a member to register?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Because I was trying to have, my institution won't compensate for registration, or for for being a member, but they will compensate for going like to the conference. So I was always getting my membership through the conference.
No, you're talking about AMATIC, right?
No, IMACC.
Oh, IMACC. No. Nope, you don't have to be. Anything else? All right. I hope this was helpful. If there's anything else you want to add, just feel free to let me know, and I can put that in the notes. I decided this time not to have the notes up. I figured we want to see each other more. But I have been taking some notes. We'll make this video along with the notes and along with Dan's sessions that he did with videos and the notes. We'll make those all available on the webpage, and we'll have probably links to those too as well on Facebook, on our IMACC Facebook page. So I want to thank you all, and have a great rest of your semester. Maybe I'll hear from you at AMATIC, and don't burn out too quickly. Christmas is coming soon, so you can start working on your spring classes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Nice seeing everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Spring classes.
You bet.
What are those?
It's just Tony.